Elsa from the movie Frozen has borderline personality disorder. Or at least, that's what many fans theorize. Borderline personality disorder, also known as BPD, is one of the most commonly diagnosed personality disorders. It affects 1 to 2% of the United States population.
According to the DSM-5, someone has to meet 5 out of 9 symptoms of BPD to meet criteria for BPD. These symptoms are an intense fear of abandonment, whether or not it is a real or perceived abandonment.
Patterns of intense relationships which have instability between idealization and intense hatred towards their partner.
The next is an unstable identity of themselves, shifting values, goals, appearance, and how they interact with each other.
Another is paranoia and depersonalization episodes, which can last a varying amount of time.
The next being impulsivity, risky and or damaging behaviors.
A relationship with suicide or self-injurious behavior, whether this is threats, actions, or thoughts.
Chronic feelings of emptiness.
And poor control of anger, which can be in the forms of sarcasm and even physically attacking. So within the film of Frozen, we see these symptoms pop up within the movie many times, and we are going to discuss some of Elsa's symptoms with examples of them and how we see the connection.
The first one we're going to talk about is the intense fear of abandonment. Now, Elsa pushes Anna away very, very hard and also fears a connection with her.
Mm-hmm.
Elsa knows that if she interacts with Anna, she will most likely hurt and possibly even kill her. So she makes sure she has stayed away from her until she escapes the palace.
Right. That she almost doesn't want to be left behind because early on their parents die.
Yeah, their parents die at a very young age.
That's probably
so
what
they
has
only
triggered
had the connection to each other.
Mm-hmm. And she didn't want to lose Anna also, so it was almost easier to create that distance herself rather than being left behind as she might have felt with her parents.
That makes sense.
We also see intense relationships between Anna and Elsa. They have a very difficult relationship with each other, which has developed in their childhood. Elsa developed a chaotic attachment to Anna, which began to avoid her later in their lives, and that creates a avoidant attachment style. We had discussed in class that a chaotic upbringing can create risk factors for BPD later in life, which is caused by that inconsistency and instability, which is seen in the Frozen film. We also see that when Anna comes after Elsa, this continues, and there is a push-pull of wanting to be around each other and not. And this continues until Anna becomes hurt and Elsa comes to a realization that she wants to have a stable relationship with her sister, and she takes the steps to do so.
And this instability comes all the way from, again, their childhood yet again, from when their parents died at a very young age.
Lots of BPD symptoms do develop with the environment we're in, and we're the most vulnerable to it when we are small. Because we have no other choice. We don't know any better.
That's true. The next will be impulsivity, risky and or damaging behaviors. Now, Elsa chooses by impulse to run away from her family and hide up in the mountains in an ice palace of which she makes for herself.
Right.
This was chosen to start new beginnings, as to basically restart her life and start anew. But this was obviously not a very thought-through choice, because then she's fully disconnected from absolutely everything and has nothing for her up in the mountains.
She chooses almost in a matter of seconds. It's like she's afraid, so she runs away into the mountains. She doesn't think this out. And I mean, changing your entire life path when you're supposed to be queen
is a very, very sudden change.
And she definitely gets the consequences with it.
Most definitely.
Elsa also experiences an unstable identity of herself. She doesn't seem to understand who she is meant to be. With her impulsivity, she seems eager to change positions in her life and follow a new path. And this changes again in the film once she decides to come back to the kingdom and continue on a different path. And this kind of shows that she's easily swayed in one direction or the other, and she's not exactly stable in who she is.
Yeah, I think that can also be seen when she is fighting her sister, because she keeps fighting between the fact of wanting the connection with her and not back and forth,
It's like a brain and heart issue, like a conflict that way.
Yeah. And then we have our final, her poor control of anger. Now, this is shown when Elsa, as soon as Anna comes to find her, immediately attacks her and tries to scare her away from her physical palace. And it shows that she is very, very quick to anger, and is also pushing her sister away while using her anger for it. Now, she knows she has went too far in her actions, but finds it extremely difficult to admit it whenever Anna confronts her in her castle.
Well, even after she attacks Anna and makes her, like, pass out, she doesn't come to her aid immediately, because she doesn't seem to, like, be able to come to terms with her anger or her action. So, which also ties into her impulsivity.
I agree. I think that her anger is very, very prevalent throughout the film as well, because again and again it happens over and over of her attacking Anna and scaring her away and trying to help her while this is all happening.
And this is a reflection on her anger on herself. But she seems to displace it and not be sure how to process her emotions, which is also a symptom or commonality between people with BPD. Fiction does have a disadvantage when coming to portray personality disorders, or really any disorder, because it is so difficult to show an entire spectrum of a disorder within an hour and a half, 2 hours, up to maximum 3.
I do agree, because there are so many different parts of a disorder that cannot be shown, and also the different ways they interact with each other.
It's more realistic that people have different symptoms of BPD. You only have to qualify or meet criteria for 5 out of 9. So you get different combinations of these symptoms, and you see how they interact with each other. So in the real world, you get a more diverse portrayal of how BPD is represented. I think nonfiction shows a more realistic depiction, of course, because this is the real world, where fiction has this fantasy and audience entertainment comes first. So aspects are definitely dramatized also.
Yeah, they're definitely made to be more exaggerated and stuff, and that is shown in the ways of jumping way, way high and going to the farthest reaches to show that it is a certain symptom.
Which also ties into the stereotypes or connotations that these representations in media can form. For example, when people think of depression, if they have not interacted with somebody that has it, or they do not have it themselves, they may think of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, who mopes around all the time and is non-functioning in his daily life.
Public understanding will be affected by this.
It's important to recognize that people are easily influenced by the media, and not everything we see in the media is true. So media literacy and skepticism is very important to make sure what evidence is shown or how we place these connotations on people is accurate, and not exactly what is seen in fiction, but a more realistic understanding of what is seen in daily life and the real world.